So we decided to make like a paradigm shift, and the new paradigm for us is let us share the algorithms with the data owners and do not collect the data from the sites. Yeah, I want to tell you something about a joint imaging platform today, which is like a major infrastructure project we are working on right now. And maybe a couple of words about me. So my name is Jonas Scherer. I'm a PhD student currently in the Department of Medical Image Computing at the German Cancer Research Center, which is led by Professor Klaus Meyer-Hein. Here you see like an older group picture, and maybe you can also detect Serena, which is already still in there. So we used to work together. That's where we know each other. And I would say like this division is separated in three main areas. So first is, I would say, deep learning, which all its different aspects. The second big area would be the medical imaging interaction toolkit, MITK, which is like an open source tool, which was developed in this department for a very long time. It has a very big track record, and yeah, it's like a desktop application for medical image analysis and annotation. And the third part, like the newest part of the family, I would say, and this is like the infrastructure side for medical image computing, where I'm actually working in. So just as a basic summary, a basic introduction, what is it all about? So in the end, we have images, and we want to gain some information on these images. So in this case, it's like the most famous example, I guess, is tumor segmentation. So we put in, we have an image, and we want to know where is the tumor on this image. So, and obviously in these days, we want to have it automatically. So there should be a computer doing the job. So we put in a picture into a computer, and it should give us some information about the image. So as you probably all know, these days we would probably do it with machine learning. Just as a very small recap how it works. So we basically have a pool of annotated training data. We put it into a classifier, some kind of machine learning logic where we train this algorithm. And if everything goes right, the classifier learns how the problem works and how to solve it. And after that, we can just put in test images, and the classifier is able to give us this information without having this image seen before. Like a lot of people actually think the main issue here to solve, like for improvement, is the classifier, which is partly true, but in our experience, it's like the classifier, we already have very, very good methods, algorithms, which are working very, very good. So this, in many cases, this is not the actual problem. Like we have a lot of solutions to problems, but the actual problem is more on the annotated training data side. So especially, I think in the medical domain in general, but especially in medical imaging, we have a huge lack of annotated training data. And as you probably know, in machine learning, the more training data you have, the better the models get, and better means like better performing, but especially with medical imaging, also more robust and generalizing, which is like a huge issue. So maybe a couple of challenges with this collecting of the training data. So the data needs to be annotated, of course, if you train supervised. The annotators needs to be experts, so physicians or medical experts, which makes it very expensive. It's also very time consuming because usually we have like 3D volumes. So you have to label like through the whole volume of many slices, which is quite complex and as I said, time consuming. In Europe, we have also very strict data protection requirements, which makes it also very hard to work with medical images because they are very hard to actually anonymize. So you could probably easily identify people just with the medical image, like the raw imaging data. And in the end, there's also very little incentive. If somebody has such a data set collected and put in the effort, like, usually they want to use it themselves first, like make their analysis, make their publications, and maybe in the end, they want to share it. But like the incentive to actually do something and share it is quite low at this moment. So as a consumption, it's maybe training data is hard to come by in medical imaging. Maybe a small comparison between medical imaging and the, let's call it like classical computer vision. There's like Imagenet, probably everybody's aware of that. There we have around 14 million annotated images in there, like 2D just pictures. One very famous data set in medical imaging is called BRADS. It's about brain tumor segmentations. And there we have around 270 subjects. So like there's a very, very big difference in the amount of available training data. So we were asking ourselves, like, how do we proceed? We want to work on the state of the art. We want to proceed in training and developing better models. And this is just a very tricky situation, especially when we want to comply to this high data protection requirements, which we have. And so we decided to make like a paradigm shift. And the new paradigm for us is, let us share the algorithms with the data owners and do not collect the data from the sites. So how would that look like? Like, here's a very like small summary of that. So basically what we used to do is we were asking like these different sites and clinics if they have some data for a problem we want to solve, and then we were collecting it from these sites. We had it locally, we trained a model, and then we used that model to write a paper or do a study with. Like, the new way we want to do it is basically take the algorithm, put it into the clinic so the data can stay where it was captured and where the data owner sits. So we can more or less circumvent all these data protection issues, because in the end, the data stays at the clinics and is not extracted. What you can see here is basically also like a small hint for the future slide. So it's not, we also need to make these clinics able to actually, make something possible. And that's exactly like what this is about. Like, we thought about what do we need to make this happen. And the first thing was we need a standardized processing environment directly within the hospitals, within the clinical IT systems. The second thing was we need access and interaction with existing clinical IT systems. So in terms of medical imaging, like the most important system is the PACS, which is like the main imaging storage in a clinic where all the images are stored. The third thing is like physicians or local employees need to be able to integrate like this workflow of analyzing new models within their existing workflows. So it shouldn't be something separate. It should be like integrated in something they already know. We need powerful hardware, especially for machine learning. You need a lot of GPU memory, you need a lot of CPU, you need a lot of storage. So that's probably not available in hospitals usually. So we need some kind of specialized hardware running in the clinics to make that possible. And in the end, it also needs to be very easy to integrate new algorithms and methods into this kind of standardized processing environment, because in the end, we want to make it as easy as possible for the community to use this infrastructure and just share the algorithms. So the last point is one of the most important, especially for us, because we at the DKFZ, we don't have that many own patients, so we are very dependent on cooperation partners. So we can only make this happen if the clinics want to join us, if we have like locally physicians and partners, radiologists who really want to work with us. Otherwise, this will never work. So in the end, we decided we want to develop a software platform which is specialized on medical image analysis, which fulfills all these requirements. So, and when it comes to this motivated cooperation partners, which is one of our like major things we need to accomplish, we go to research consortia. And the first research consortium where we were cooperating with is called DKTK. So it's the German Cancer Consortium. And it's about like a collaboration between radiology and nuclear medicine departments of different university clinics with a like focus on cancer care. And we want to standardize the examination, reading, reporting, and documentation of radiology findings, and also allow high quality imaging in multi-center clinical trials. So that's the big word here. Multi-center clinical trials is like the major aim, what we want to enable here. And therefore, we want to distribute IT infrastructure, which enables machine learning and inference of machine learning models within the clinical landscape. And also including automatic imaging processing pipelines, and also some aspects of big data like visualization of data and data selection. Here you see like a small map of the first consortium of the DKTK, which was like 11 university clinics in Germany, which were the first ones who actually put in a server of our infrastructure in their clinical. And we have a small roadmap. So we started this whole process in 2017. when I also started my PhD thesis. And yeah, we then had a couple of releases. Back then it was only the joint imaging platform. It was like one project with like the aims I just showed you. And yeah, we had a couple releases, and we had a nice publication at the end of 2020, and now it got extended, so it will continue in the next years. The second big consortium where I want to talk about is like the currently more important one for us, which is called Raccoon. It stands for Radiological Cooperative Network, and it's really, it came with COVID-19. So it's really, it was a reaction of the government to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was especially meant to improve the cooperation between all the university clinics in Germany to cooperate more digitally and to have a better pandemic response and pandemic preparedness. That's how they call it. So what's actually super nice in this consortium is that actually all university clinics in Germany are part of that, which are 36 right now. And we also have a technical infrastructure running in the hospitals, similar to the one before. Just here is the COVID-19 focus, and the other one is more a cancer focus. So that's the main difference between the focus of these two consortia. And what's also very important is in this Raccoon consortium, there are many, many, many very interested and committed partners from all sides, like data science, but also a lot of radiologists who really want to get something going and really move the whole field on the next level. And this is why there's a lot of progress going on right now. It started last year. It was funded originally for 1 year and was now extended until 2024. And that's where we're working on. Maybe a small scheme of the technical infrastructure in general, how it's deployed in Raccoon. So the nice thing in Raccoon is we also have a central node. So it's like a star architecture. We have all these nodes which you see down here. So these things are running in the clinic, but we also have a central system where we can do things like collecting research results, or we can do model assembling. And for federated approaches, we have like a central node where we can communicate between the nodes. And locally in the clinics, there's what you see here, there's the JIP. So this is the joint imaging platform I was showing you before, but there's also two other systems. So one is the central product. It's actually a medical product, which is responsible for like the structured reporting, which is one of the main goals, and also for like the data storage of the whole data. The JIP is then responsible for all the machine learning approaches and analysis. And the third partner is here called Satori, which is a platform which makes it easy to annotate this medical data. So most segmentation, so image gets, some organs get segmented within this. All right, these were two big examples, but we also have a couple of other projects where we involved in, like the major ones are listed here. Cancer Core Europe is one of the nicer ones because it's like out of Germany. So it's like the first thing where we have something going within the big cancer centers across Europe, which is also ongoing right now. All right, so then more to the technical aspects of the platform. How is it built? We started with that basic procedure or workflow, which is we need to have a system where we have data exploration. So we see what we currently have. Then we have mechanisms to actually select data which we want to use with one specific method or algorithm. Then we want obviously to execute the pipelining for the whole processing. And in the end, we want to have some standardized results. And when we are talking about standardization in this context, it almost always means DICOM. So for people who are maybe not aware of that, but in medical imaging, there's one big standard, which is called DICOM. It's used across the world. And basically every clinical system understands and speaks DICOM. And so we want to make use of that system to also produce data which is understandable and like compatible to the standard. So when we produce, for example, segmentations, we produce DICOM segmentation objects, which can also be understood by the clinical PAC systems, for example, or just by other software. And all right, so now I want to talk quickly about Kapana. And just for technically interested people, it's maybe interesting that Kapana is basically the framework behind the joint imaging platform. So for people who are not that interested, it's more or less the same. You can see it as a synonym, but the Kapana is an open source framework, what we developed, and it's basically building blocks for data processing and like the platform infrastructure itself. And you can use this framework to build project-specific platforms. That's what it's meant for. So if a project has very specific demands, so it needs a special software or something, it can be built in a way with Kapana that you have your project-specific platform. And that's what we're currently developing, and which is also already on GitHub. And for the functional Unix, so for different areas, we thought about different areas, and what we came up with was these 5 major areas. First is what we call base. This is like the main user interface of the whole platform. Second is the storage area, where we actually save the imaging data, which is sent to our server. And where we also save, for example, processing results. The third big area is called meta. This is data exploration and data selection. Then we have flow. There we do everything with data processing. So the whole data processing pipelines we were talking about, this is covered in flow. And the last part is like the technical foundation for the whole platform, so that we are able to make everything work, do maintenance, do updates, and all these things. So from the technology stack, it's maybe as a rough idea, it's like the major industry technology standards right now for cloud computing. So everything what you know from Windows Azure or Amazon AWS, OpenStack. So usually when people talk about cloud computing, this is the kind of technology they are using. But the interesting thing is that we make use of all this nice modern technology, but we deploy it in a private cloud scenario. So we basically use the technology, but we don't use like Amazon or Google, but we have our own servers and we deploy everything on premise within the clinic. So there's basically no external connection needed whatsoever, but we still have this nice technology. Like on top of that, so what we need to run is basically just any kind of Unix operating system. Usually we use CentOS or Ubuntu. And then on top of that, there's a layer of containers. Usually we use Docker containers or some similar system. And this is like also a main theme through the platform. Everything is a container. So every service is a container, every web interface is a container, but also every processing step. So if you do, for example, a PyTorch training, that will also run in a container. And like the big benefit here is that it scales very well. We can easily switch out components. We can easily update single things. So it's actually a very neat technology here. And we also use Kubernetes on the other hand. And Kubernetes is like a container orchestrating tool, it's called. So this actually makes all these different containers talk to each other, specifies how like a deployment looks like, and specifies in the end, the whole platform. And on top of that, we built this Kapana technology stack. As I told you before, like there's a base layer with the system components, which allow you to deploy services in different environments. And then you also have like the component areas for like user interface storage and data exploration. On top of that, then there's this flow area where you can basically just schedule jobs, processing jobs, like for example, machine learning, training, or inference. So maybe some bullet points here. So we use industry cloud computing technology in a private cloud approach. Everything is browser-based, so the whole UI can completely used by a browser, so there's nothing needed to be installed on workstations, which is in clinics very nice because we have this one server and everybody can just connect to it via the browser. In the end, everything is container-based, and that makes it very flexible and also very scalable because the system doesn't really care about where the computation load is executed. It's just like a cluster of hardware nodes. So if more compute power is needed, we can just add another computing node, and we'll have instantly more computing power. This small scheme should show how the platform is running in a clinic. So what we see in this Bluebox is basically the clinical IT environment, and there we have the clinical image server, like the PACS running. This one is communicating via DICOM with our system. So here we have, for example, a physician, which is using the PACS system of the clinic as usual, and then they can send images from this PACS system directly into our platform because all PACS systems speak DICOM, and we understand DICOM, so they just send it to us. We then redundantly keep a copy of these images, and we use them then for our data processing. In the end, what's maybe also interesting is that at DKFZ we also have a central distribution like center, if you want to call it like that, which allows us to distribute new models, new services, or new processing pipelines directly into the clinic. So we have kind of an extension system. You can think about it like a small app store where we can just add new abilities, and they can just install it from within the clinics, and they will just pull it from our DKFZ infrastructure. All right, so since the theory is always interesting, but demo is always better, I also want to show you how it looks like these days. So as I said, this is just a browser window where you can just log in. I hope you see it, right? Could you? Yeah, sorry. And this is like the main user interface, and how the platform in general works. It's more or less a collection of many open source tools which are already out there. For example, our main data storage, so the main functional units, you can find them on the left-hand side. So we talked about, for example, the storage unit, and there you will see like our research packs. And in this case, we used DICOM4J, which is a very famous open source PAC system, which we deployed, but we can also easily exchange it to another system if this is wanted. And so all these open source tools are running within the platform, but we combine the user interfaces inside this main inside this main user interface from the platform. So there's the PACs. So when a DICOM image arrives, we basically store it redundantly in this PAC system. The second thing is like a very basic browser-based DICOM viewer, so we can actually have a look at the images and see what's going on there. The next thing is a so-called object storage. So basically, we have two types of data. One is DICOM, and this will be stored in this PACS I just showed you. And the second thing is everything that is not DICOM will be kept in this object storage, which is like an S3 compatible object storage, like it's also very famous in the cloud computing community. Just basically a distributed file storage, which also allows us to, for example, generate download links and manage data in a very efficient way. So the next main functional unit is the meta area. And as I said, the focus here is on data exploration and data selection. So what we do when DICOM images arrive at the platform, we extract all the metadata from these DICOM images, which you can understand like also like PNG or JPEG images. They have kind of metadata, which camera took it, which exposure, and so on. For DICOM, it's more or less the same, but it's way more information. So there's on the one hand, there's like this technical information, like what kind of modality was used, what scanner was used, which manufacturer, but also like patient information, like the gender of the patient. Sometimes there's the height encoded in there, or the weight or age. So these are all different aspects of the DICOM standard, which can be extracted, and we put it inside a search engine. And on top of that, we can build this like nice dashboards, to actually just visualize what kind of data we currently have on the platform. So what you see here is, for example, very important, like what modalities. So you see we have CT, MR, but also segmentation objects or RT structs. By the way, the data you see here is TCIA, so public data sets which are available. And so this is more or less a demo showcase. So we just have a couple of graphs here, which is showing different aspects of the data. So here you see, for example, the device which was used or which manufacturer was used to generate the data. You can also see when it was taken, and also like the clinical information, like the study description, series description, and things like that. So one idea is, so this is just a general view about many different aspects, but the idea is that you can easily build these kind of dashboards yourself. So if you are interested in a specific aspect of the data, you can easily create your own dashboard, which just shows like specific aspects of the data, which I will also show you later. The data exploration is not the only point. As I said, it's also data selection, which is very important. And what is very nice, you can just, on a click base, you can just start filtering the data. So when I click here on CT, the whole data set will be filtered down to CT images only. And if you, for example, have now an algorithm which segments livers from CT images, then usually what it wants to have is a CT of the abdominal area. So what we can do here is basically select the CT modality, and then we go on the body part examined, and we take abdomen. So all the data will be filtered down that we only have abdominal CT images. And what we can then do is basically we have a list of all the algorithms or processing pipelines which are currently installed in the system, and we can just select one and execute it with the data we just selected. In that case, I will use an NN unit, which is like an implementation from our department, which is very good at segmentation tasks of very different aspects. So when I click here on start, I also get an input form where I can specify different parameters of this specific pipeline. So in this case, I can, for example, select different pre-trained models which are available for this pipeline. And in this case, I want to take this task 17 because it segments like a lot of different things. And there you can also see what it expects. For example, it expects CT, body part is abdomen. And here you see what it actually segments. So it's quite a big list of different organs which is able to segment. And yeah, we have a couple of other parameters which are not that important right now. So down here, I can like specify the amount of the data I want to use from all the sets I just filtered. In this case, I will just use 5 because I don't want to trigger 500 right now. But then you can just click on start. And the idea is that like the cohort or the data collection we just filtered out will be transferred to the next section, which is like this flow section. And as I said, this is like the data processing area. So everything, machine learning or data processing in general happens here. And you can also see there's an NN unit workflow listed. And you also see there's like a bright green coloring going on. So we see that there's currently five triggers going on. You can also have a look in a different view. So you see like the 5 images I just selected, the 5 CTs have now triggered its own run of this prediction pipeline, and they run in parallel. And you can basically see in this view how like step by step, they will be predicted. And in this case, how it works, it starts with the get input data. So this will actually pull the data we selected on the dashboard. So it will collect the data from the PAC system in the system. Then we convert this into a more data scientific way. So in medical imaging, that's usually NIFTY or NERD. So we convert the data. We make sure that the pre-trained model we selected is available in the system. Then we do the inference itself, which will produce like a segmentation NIFTY again. And as I said, we don't want to have NIFTY. We want to stay in DICOM because we want to have the standardized outcomes. So we will take this NIFTY from the NN unit inference, put it back into a DICOM segmentation object, and send this back into our main research packs, where it will pop up just as as a segmentation. And we can also have a look at that. So when that's completed, like we already have a couple in there. So we also have a second dashboard here, which is specialized on segmentation. So we see different aspects of the ground truth of available data on the system. So in this case, we see we have quite a lot of segmentations already in the system. It right now supports also RT-struct and DICOM segmentations. And yeah, so for example, if you want to train a model, that would be the view where I'm searching my ground truth data set. So I can, for example, say I want to train a data set with a liver. So I can just select here the liver, and now I see all my all my files where I have a liver segmented, which in this case is only 45. And then, for example, I could start a training with that. So we usually encode our NN unit tasks within the series description. And so we see here is also the NN unit listed. So all the segmentations which have been produced by this automatic prediction of the NN unit. And I just filtered all of them down to just show me these images. And then I can also click here on one of those, and I could have a look at the results. Oop. Demo got. 1 second, take another one. So in this case, there's the abdominal CT image. It will probably take a second until these segmentations are loaded. So and there you see, this was like the automatic prediction of the NN unit. You see there's a whole list of different organs from liver, aorta, stomach, and you get it immediately done. You get it immediately in the standardized format, which means it's automatically recognized by our DICOM viewer because it's stored like referenced correctly in the PAC system. So that basically comes for free, and we have this kind of nice segmentation. Yeah, the last big dashboard here is about trained models. So just as a small summary, it is also possible to store trained models in the kind of system and make use of, like, we have also some service operators, so we can easily download some files or file selections or models as a zip file, or we can, for example, just send it to a different instance of such a platform, and they can install it and make predictions, for example, with the trained model. So that's in general also possible. All right, so the next section is probably not super interesting. This is more for like the system admins or technically interested people. It's more like the utilization of the system, storage situation, and things like that. In the system area, we have a few on like the deeper level of the system, so we can have a look at all the containers. For example, in the what I said, like when we trigger a processing, what I said, like each step of this processing pipeline will trigger its own container for the processing. And what you see here is basically all these bubbles, you know, which were popping up. And you see there are like 3 running right now from what we triggered. It's the NN unit inference. So that's yeah, running in its own container. And here we can also have a look at, for example, the logs, what's going on there. But we can also do it from here. So if we have a look at this view, we also see, okay, here's this NN unit inference container running, and we can also click here on just few logs, and we see immediately what's going on in this processing step. That's also obviously valid if something goes wrong, and it's shown. Let me see, for example, here there was something going wrong. We can easily just find out like the pipeline execution which was not working, and click on the thing which not worked, and have a look at the logs, and yeah, maybe try to find some bugs. Okay, then I will skip these two. So this is basically just about like a browser-based data upload. Usually we are focused on DICOM send, so the data is sent directly from a PAC system or via DICOM send command on any workstation. And the last big area I want to talk about is what we call extensions. So you can think about it like this app store I was talking about. You have plenty of things available just for installation. So services as well as processing pipelines. And what you can see here, for example, is a code server, which is, for example, a Visual Studio Code implementation running in the browser. So this enables you to just code, yeah, directly on the server. You see directly what's going on in there when it's working, yeah. Yeah, make adjustments. So what you see here, for example, is all these pipelines which are installed right now are listed in these Python files, and yeah, you can just make adjustments or change things. Another thing is, for example, Jupyter Lab is also available, or what I talked before, like MITK, which is usually like a desktop application, but we also made some experiments with packaging this desktop application inside and streaming environments. What we do is we also run this desktop applications in containers and then stream like the application in the browser. So that's actually how we try to make desktop applications also running inside this cloud environment. And what you see here is like a very first version of MITK running within also this cloud infrastructure. And you can also use all the tools of MITK, but yeah, right now it's a little bit laggy, so we are still working on that. Is there anything else? Yeah. As you see, there are like a couple of things already available, like radiomics, like different segmentation workflows, or yeah, also some annotation tools for text-based annotations, for example. Yeah, but I think overall that's like the main things about the demo. Maybe a couple words about our plans and what we want to do in the future. So we want to a little bit lose our focus on the strictly imaging focus and want to be a little bit more open for other kinds of data, like also medical data sets like genomics or pathology or something. But yeah, like as a we want to develop in an area where we are like a generic data processing platform, because in the end, we also want to combine medical imaging with other kind of ground truth to be able to involve more information in our training processes. We really want to focus on federated learning. We already have some things going there, so we are able to train models locally at each site, collect them, and do model averaging or sampling. So that's already possible, but we also want to make it more sophisticated. Usability is a big point, so that it's easier, not so technically to use, and also that there's more data separation, for example, for different studies, that users are only allowed to see a specific amount of data on the server and things like that. That's not really included right now, so we will work on that. Data annotation and curation will also be a big thing, which will be important. And I think also integration of other data sets like EHR data, like patient data in general, is also important. We have a paper available in JCO Clinical Cancer Informatics. It's also openly available. So if you're interested, you can have a look there. We are a whole team of people right now working in this area. So this is like the current team developing it, but we are steadily growing. And if you're interested, here are a couple of addresses where you can maybe find some more information. Probably the easiest way is to go on GitHub and search for Kapana, and there you will probably find all the contacts and all the information. So you can always feel free to reach out to us. We are also very interested in having more people like contributing or talking about different ideas. Maybe also critique. So if you're interested and you want to reach out to us, feel free to do so.